Hey everybody, what's good? What's going on? JB here, back with another CyberInsight live stream. We're doing day 2 of the Advent of Cyber from TryHackMe, so we're going to jump right into this and see what we have going on. If you have any questions as we move through this, throw these in the chat and we'll hit those up. And as always, appreciate it if you smash a like or subscribe button to the channel. It's always a thing that helps me out with the old YouTube algorithms. So let's just jump into this. So this is called Santa's Naughty and Nice Log. So we're dealing with log analysis. And let's see what's going on today. So Santa's Security Operations Center, SSOC, has notified or noticed one of their web servers, the santagift.shop, has been hijacked by the Bandit APT group, which is who we discovered yesterday is trying to take out Christmas this year. Elf McBlue's task is to analyze the log files captured from the web server to understand what is happening and track down the Bandit Yeti APT group. So what are we going to be talking about in this particular task? We're going to be talking about what log files are and why they're useful. We're going to understand what type of valuable information we can get out of log files. Some of the locations where we can find log files on different types of systems. We're going to look at some basic Linux commands when we're looking through log files to be able to search for different types of strings and find different types of data. And continue our valiant efforts of trying to help Elf McBlue track down the Bandit Yeti APT. That's a tongue twister. So there is a machine that we're going to need for this. So if you're following along, you might as well hit the start machine button and get that going, because that will take a few minutes for that to spin up. So what are log files and why are they useful? So log files are files that contain historical records of events and other types of data from an application. Some things that you might find within different types of log files is different attempts or failures to access data or a network or devices trying to log in. Different types of traffic that you might see on a network. So if you're capturing log files off of, say, a firewall or something like that. Different types of resources that have been accessed. So this can be both from a network device, seeing different things being accessed, from a web gateway, seeing things being accessed, or even just on an individual server or machine. Depending on the type of logging that you have turned on, you can see folks trying to access different types of files. Password changes, application errors, many more things. So by making a historical record of events that happened, log files are extremely useful and important when it comes to trying to pull together the right type of evidence when doing an investigation into something happening within an environment. So it's going to give you like the 5 W's: the who, what, when, where. You might not get the why out of that at that point, but maybe, as I say here, who, what, when, where, and what is the result of the action that they did. So here's kind of a very simple example that they give. Users reportedly accessed inappropriate material on a university network. With logging in place, a sysadmin could determine the following things. So what happened? We see that a user is confirmed to have accessed the inappropriate material on the university network, when it happened, the timestamp that goes along with the log, where it happened can give you the IP address of the device that connected to access the material, who did it. If it's tied back to a specific user account, then you're able to see that. And then taking all those into account and adding a little bit of context sprinkled on top, we're able to kind of get the result of what that action is and how that impacts this particular environment. So if you haven't seen what a log file actually looks like, we're going to dive into that a little bit. And it totally depends based off of the type of device that you're looking at. So Windows event logs is going to look different than Linux logs, and Cisco switch logs are going to look different than Juniper firewall logs. But for the most part, they do have some type of standardization as far as the format of making sure that it has a date, it has the particular device that it's coming from, and then the action that it's logging. So as I say here, a useful log will contain some of the following attributes: a timestamp, so date and time, the name of the service that's generating the log file, i.e. SSH is a remote device management protocol that allows the user to log into the system. So we can see Like here, you see SSHD, so that's showing what's generating the log file. And then 3, the actual event that the service is logging. So in this case here, it's invalid user trying to connect. So some common locations of different log files on Windows. If you go into Event Viewer, then you're going to see a whole bunch of different log folders that has different types of logs within there. So within Windows, we end up seeing that they're broken down in a few different categories. Application logs. So this category contains all events related to applications on the system. So for example, the service TryHackMe.exe was restarted. A security log, this contains all of the events related to system security. So you can see when a user logs into a system, or maybe different things related to password changes. Let's see, setup. This category contains all the events related to systems maintenance. So for example, Windows update logs are stored here. So you can see that the system must be restarted before this particular KB can be installed. And then system logs. This contains all events related to the system itself. So this could be logs related to changes on the system. For example, if a system is restarted, powered on, powered off, different types of peripherals are plugged into it. So within Linux, the logs on there look a little bit different. If you're doing it through the command line, then obviously it's not as pretty as this GUI is, but the difference is it's a lot easier to search and use different commands to get through the logs. So on this flavor of Linux, they're looking at Ubuntu and Debian. The operating system log files are located within the var/log directory. And we can use the ls command in var/log directory to list all of the different log files located on the system. If you don't have any background in Linux and you want to kind of cut your teeth on that a little bit more, I actually do have a bunch of Linux labs that could help you out as far as getting comfortable moving around directories, opening files, things like that. So pretty much in this room, they're going to tell us what we need to do. But if you did want to go a little bit more in depth into some stuff, I think this is one of my cybersecurity playlists, but I think I have a Linux playlist. Let's see. Yeah, this Linux Plus breakdowns of labs. If you check out that playlist, there's probably like 5 or 6 Linux videos in there that can get you spun up on how to maneuver through the Linux CLI and get kind of comfortable with it. So as we did with the Windows stuff, here's some of the different important types of logs that we would see within Linux. So authentication, this deals with all like login type of stuff. This is usually attempted either remotely or on the system itself. So we see like a failed password for the root account from this IP over this port. Package management, this is going to be dealing with software on the device. So, and patches, things like that. Syslog file contains all events related to things happening in the system's background. For example, cron tabs executing services, starting and stopping, which would be important to know, and other types of behaviors. It's helpful when debugging different types of problems. And then the kernel. So this log file contains all events related to the kernel events on the system. For example, changes to the kernel output from devices such as networking equipment or physical devices like USBs. So when it comes time to look through logs, that can be kind of cumbersome, especially, I mean, just the amount of logs on an individual device. If you take that and expand that out over 20 devices, and that becomes really, really difficult. If you expand that over 1,000 devices in a large environment, then you're going to have a really hard time just thumbing through a whole bunch of stuff. So log files can quickly contain many events, hundreds if not thousands of entries. The difficulty in analyzing log files is separating useful information from useless. Tools such as Splunk are software solutions known as Security and Event Information Management, or SIEM. It's dedicated to kind of collecting all these different logs and then categorizing them based off of metadata within the logs and breaking them down into different types of groups, which hopefully is helpful to you because those groups should be correlated with specific types of activities that you're interested in. So here they have advantages and disadvantages of SIEM platforms. So advantage SIEM platforms have dedicated service for log analysis. Platforms can collect a wide variety of logs. So normally they have different types of what's the word I want to use here? Not profiles, but they have different types of files that are written to be able to ingest different types of logs and different types of formats and kind of normalize those together so that they make sense and can kind of, again, put together different types of logs that are showing different types of actions that would be similar. So for instance, if you have a whole bunch of different logs coming in from Windows, Linux, and firewalls that all have different types of log events for failed login attempts to each of those different types of devices, they're going to normalize those logs, and then maybe those different types of logs would be put together into a bucket that's dealing with failed logins. SIEM platforms allow for advanced in-depth analysis of many log files at once. So what are some of the disadvantages? They say commercial SIEM platforms are expensive to license and run. That's true. If you go with non-commercial ones that are open source, then normally the work that goes into getting them up and running can be a little bit more cumbersome. So it's kind of a trade-off between price versus time. SIEM platforms take considerable time to properly set up and configure. Yes. And SIEM platforms require training to be properly used. Yep. Luckily for us, most operating systems already come with a set of tools that allows us to search through logs. So they're talking about using the grep command to look for things. Again, that doesn't scale all that great across multiple devices, but if you know the device that you need to be looking at stuff on, then this is what you probably would end up doing. So grep 101. Grep is a command dedicated to searching for a given text in a file. So it takes a given input and then searches the entire file for text that matches whatever we input. So before using grep, we have to find the location of the log file that we're looking for. By default, if you use a grep command, it's going to search within your current working directory. So if you want to grep on a file that's in a different directory, then you need to specifically call that out. You can find out what your current working directory is by using the pwd command, present working directory. And you can see here, they type that and then it says the directory that they're in. If we wish to change and go to another directory, we use the cd command followed by the new path of where we want to go to. So if we were in this directory, we wanted to go to the my path here directory, we would go cd /my/path/here. Don't put / on the end of the last thing that you're moving into. Once we determine that we're in the correct directory, we can use the ls command or the list command to list the different files and directories within our current working path. So here we go, ls, and it will show all of the different files there. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to be using these commands here shortly in this room, so you'll get to see exactly how they work. Now that we know where our logs are, we can begin to use the grep command. And so we need to do a few different things. We use the grep command, specify the options that we want to use with it. You don't need to use any options if you're just generally using it to search for something within a particular file, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And then specify the location of the file that we want to grep through, assuming that it's in our current directory that we're in. Otherwise, we're going to have to provide the full path to where we want to go. So for example, using the grep command to look through a log file for a particular IP address. So we're going to go grep, and then in quotes, the string that we want to search for, and then the file that we want to search within. Again, this file here is within the current directory that we're residing within on this Linux box. And then from that, we end up getting this log file. So in above, the terminal above, we can see 2 entries in this log file for this particular IP address. For reference, we narrowed down the 2 entries from a log file with 469 entries. So it's pretty good as far as getting down to the particular data that you need. So here are some ideas for things that we might want to search for: the name of a computer, name of a file, name of a user account, certain time period, or maybe IP address. Really, we can take whatever bits of information we have about a particular situation and then use grep to look for things that might align or match with that. So there are a few different options with grep that we can look at doing here. So perform a case insensitive search. So if we use the -i, then whatever we type within the quotes, it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase, it's going to return the same results. we can use regular expressions, regex. In this example, we can search for lines that contain either the THM or TryHackMe. So that's what this is going to be here, and we're using a pipe command in between that. Or we can search recursively. So this will allow us to search the entire directory instead of just a particular file. So we can go grep dash lowercase r quotes and then the string that we're looking for and then the directory. And as always with almost everything in Linux, if you want a little bit more in-depth breakdown of all the different options that you have, you can use the manual page. So you can go man and then the command that you want to look at, in this case grep, and it will give you all the options that are available for using grep. If you don't like the format of that, which some people don't, then just go to Google. Google's your best friend. So, all right, now we're to the practical part of this. So for today's task, you'll need to deploy the machine attached to this task by pressing the Start Machine button. Up at the top, I already did that. We can see that this is running here. It should launch it in a split screen, which it did not. If it does not do that for you, there's a button up at the top, the Show Split Screen button. And that will bring it up and we'll be able to see it. So let's do this. We're going to go all the way back up to the top, Show Split Screen. And now we're in here. Now I'm actually going to go full screen with this so you can actually see what we're doing here a little bit better. And that should be good. And we're going to get rid of this split screen here. And we'll just kind of bounce back and forth. So we deployed the machine for this task. So we want to use the ls command to list the present files in the working directory. So this is going to be showing us, first off, let's see where we're at. So we were going to say the pwd command will show us that. So we're in the home Elf McBlue directory. We want to see what files are here. So we have sshd.log and a webserver.log file. Well, let's see. We can see that these are kind of big files. These are big log files right here. So I don't necessarily want to go. Normally, if it's a smaller file, I have no problem using like a cat command, which will open it up. But since that's pretty big, that might be spinning here for a little bit. So we don't want to do that. So we probably are going to use the grep commands right away to get in and take a look at these. See a bunch of comments coming in from people. Appreciate everybody dropping in. I'll hit up. There's some questions in there as well. I'll hit those up at the end here once we get through this. Use the ls command to list the present files. How many were there? There was 2 files there that we saw. Okay. And then Elf McSkitty managed to capture the logs generated by the web server. What is the name of this log file? Well, there was 2 there. There's a sshd log and the webserver.log, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be webserver.log. So webserver.log. Okay. Begin investigating the log file from question 3 to answer the following questions. All right. So what was Santa's naughty, on what day was Santa's naughty and nice list stolen? So let's see. I mean, so we don't have much to go off of here besides the list. We know there's a list and Santa. Let's just grep within the web server log for Santa. How about that? Okay. So that brings us, I'll move that so you can see that a little bit better. That leaves us with a few different logs that end up matching that. And we see that using this GET request to access different things on the web server, but we do see a Santa's list.txt. So, and we see this GoBuster, that's a tool that you'd use to kind of like enumerate a website. We see that this actually was used with a wget command. So that must have popped up and been interesting, and then they went to pull that down. And so this was on the 18th of November. Does anybody remember what day the 18th of November was. I do not. So let's go. Let's just go Google. Let's go 18 November 2022. It was a Friday. Okay. Let's go Friday. Cool. All right. What was the IP address of the attacker? So from that looks like 10.10.249.191. 10.10.249.191. 191. Okay. What is the name of the important list that the attacker stole from Santa? Let's see. So Santa's list.txt is what that looks like. Okay, and then it says, look through the log file for the flag. The format of the flag is THM and these braces. So if you remember up above, we looked at using grep on like the whole directory versus the individual files. We could do it on individual files, but since there's only 2 in here, that would be really easy to do it individually. But let's say there wasn't 2, there was a whole bunch, then that could kind of be a pain. So we're going to go grep and then the dash, lowercase r, and we're just going to go THM. It starts with this. So we'll go THM and the first brace. Let's see how that works. And then the directory. So if we remember, the directory was the home Elf McBlue. Let's see if we can bump this back up to the top. Okay. So let's go grep, lowercase r for recursive, THM like this. And then it was home Elf McBlue. Let's see. I think that was it. And there we go. Okay. So it was THM and then stolen Santa's list. Or, yeah, stolen Santa's list. So let's just pop that in there. That should be it. Cool. And if you're interested in more log analysis, the Windows Event Log room is good. I think I actually might have done a walkthrough on that. So check out my TryHackMe playlist for that. And yeah, I think that was it for day number 2 of the Advent of Cyber. Pretty good. A little bit of intro to log analysis. Let's go and throw these comments up here real quick before we get out of here. So question 1, sorry for killing train of thought, but in day 1 the web page was defaced. Can you explain that technically? Admins still have access to the whole machine and logs to the server? Yeah, so that's how I took that, is that they still have access to it, but somebody just got in there and messed around with whatever the web page, you know, whether it's cascading style sheets or HTML or whatever whatever they were writing the web page in, they just messed with that. I don't think that they've done anything yet, particularly with that page, that was causing the admins to not be able to get into it. Professor Black Ops, what's good, sir? Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And hey Harry, what's good? Looks like you figured out whatever your issue was there, so awesome. So if nobody has any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Appreciate everybody dropping in. Come back tomorrow with day 3. And yeah, so go get at it. We will chat soon. All right.